My name is Chris Stevenson, and I'm here to tell you that most of you want to be successful, right? Right? You want to achieve amazing things. You want to accomplish goals. And when it comes to that, you think, follow your passion and do what you love. And while all that's true to some extent, what if I told you that success is actually more painfully predictable? And what if I told you that success is boring, right? Success has a lot to do with the boring, right? It's about ordinary things that if you do on a regular basis that are often boring and they're not super inspiring or motivating, lead to extraordinary success, right? So success isn't necessarily about motivation and excitement, even though that's a part of it. It's just about mastering the ordinary. Again, I'm Chris Stevenson. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm an entrepreneur, and my role here is to help bring Sourena Vasseghi's message to life. Sourena was born with severe cerebral palsy. And through our videos, I share his mindset, his thoughts, his ideas on achievement and personal development. I present his writings on camera. And now, here's a few words from Sourena.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome back to another video. Absolutely. More profitable success. The other exciting thing. Often success can be boring. Yes, boring. Chris will explain this concept. Can you agree?
The truth about goals and boredom. No matter how exciting a goal seems, and by the way, there are goals that will get us very inspired and excited and motivated, but there's always going to be boring, tedious, mundane, unenjoyable parts to accomplish that goal. And to become extraordinary, you've got to master those things, which Sourena likes to call the ordinary. You've got to be able to do them over and over again with consistency, because you can't be extraordinary without first mastering the ordinary. Now think about this in our lives, right? In order to get healthier and get fit, you've got to master the ordinary. That's going to the gym and doing cardio and doing your weight training. That's just the ordinary things, but it can lead to extraordinary results. It's about entrepreneurs doing those ordinary things, not the exciting parts all the time, but returning the emails, doing the marketing, posting on social, those mundane, ordinary things that, again, can lead to extraordinary results. It's Sourena doing all of his daily tasks, which are very ordinary, right? He's got his very ordinary routine, but he does those ordinary things consistently, and he puts the effort in, and that's led him to some of his extraordinary success. You may not want to hear it, but motivation is a diminishing resource. It just doesn't last, right? It ebbs and flows. Think about this. Oftentimes in the morning, we're super motivated, right? We wake up, we're inspired, we're motivated, and as the day goes on and we encounter stress and we become more tired, that motivation starts to fade. Now, while motivation is important, it is crucial to our success, we can't solely rely on that. Because no matter how much your goal means to you, there will be steps that don't excite you and motivate you. So understanding the fact that motivation will fade and that some of the things we do just aren't motivational at all, that could keep us from hitting our goals. So again, this is where it's embrace the boredom. Because there is a cycle to motivation, right? You start excited, motivation fades, then you push through that, and then motivation does return. So when it's fading, know that it will come back. You just have to push through, and oftentimes that's doing all those boring things. So again, when we use our health as an example, you start eating healthier, right? It can be a little boring and mundane, right? The foods aren't quite as fun. The drinks aren't quite as fun. And there will be times where you're like, I just don't want to eat this anymore. But you push through because your motivation is faded. Then you start to see results, and that helps fire up the motivation again. So understand that motivation is a diminishing resource. It does ebb and flow, but if we push through by doing the mundane, ordinary things, it will lead us to extraordinary results. The hidden power of embracing boredom. Sourena's perspective as someone with a disability is that life goes slow. Often it feels like it's crawling, and that can force him into experiencing boredom. And while that may sound like a bad thing, it's not always a bad thing, right? In boredom, sometimes that's when ideas surface. That's when Sourena does some of his best creative work, is when he's simply bored and he lets his mind wander. Johann Hari wrote a book called Stolen Focus. And in that book, one of the major points is mind wandering is crucial for creativity. Think about when you have your best ideas. Sometimes you're sitting there focused, intense, trying to come up with ideas and solutions and all of those things, and you just can't do it. Then what happens? You go for a run, you go for a walk, you take some time off, you rest a little bit, and all of a sudden the answer is just there, right? But boredom actually gives your brain a break. It's important. It's like resting after exercise. But we always in today's society feel like We got to be on the go. We got to give 110%. We've always got to be doing something. And that's just simply not the case. It can actually be really counterproductive. The learning curve challenge. Here's the challenge with the learning curve. We all have to learn to grow and improve and accomplish our goals. But the problem is when we're acquiring these new skills and improving our mindset, it can be challenging and that makes it boring. And sometimes it's just mundane things, right? It can be overwhelming having to read and study and learn and watching technical videos and attending lectures. All those things can be very boring. And that's where we can fall off that learning curve. But if we really want to climb the learning curve as fast as possible, we embrace those things that can come across as boring and mundane, and we make sure we do it. And there's a lot of people that aren't successful because they avoid these things because they're just not fun. But that's one thing that Sourena will tell you is the journey is not always fun, right? We've got to embrace the journey, but it's not always this awesome ride that's exciting and fun and motivating. We've been talking about it. There are boring parts to it. But when you can commit to that, own it, understand it, and stay strong through those boring parts, that's when the magic really happens, right? I travel a ton for business, and there are some really mundane, irritating, boring parts of travel, whether it's waiting in lines and rent-a-cars and delayed flights and all those things. But when I finally go through all those things that have to happen, that I don't necessarily love or enjoy, the result is great. I give an outstanding keynote. I work with an amazing client. I run an outstanding workshop. It's all worth it, right? A lot of people just don't succeed because they can't handle the mundane and boring parts, right? Think of you and your business and what you're trying to accomplish. Maybe what you actually do to serve people or the product you deliver is exciting and awesome and fun and fulfilling, but all the things to get to that delivery point or to provide and create that service are sometimes mundane, but you've got to embrace it. And it's the people that can embrace those boring things and continue to hammer it out and do them that will be the most successful. So here's some practical applications. Let's call it the art of getting bored. Right? Practice doing nothing and letting your mind wander. It is harder than you think. Normally, when we try to relax and we sit there, our mind starts to go crazy, right? We start to get stressed and anxious and we think about all sorts of things. But work on your breathing, work on your focus, and do your best to think of nothing. Just let your mind wander. You don't always have to be listening to a podcast when you drive. Sometimes just get lost in the drive and throw on some music and let that mind wander. Avoid filling your time too with mindless activities. All jokes aside, the other day was talking with my family and I said, I just went to the bathroom without my phone. It was an incredible experience. But we joke about that, right? Because what happens when we go to the bathroom? We're on our phones, we're checking things. We can't simply just not do anything. And when you, again, create purposeful time for your mind to wander, that's when some of your best creativity and your innovation happens. So stop that compulsion to constantly consume content and staying busy. It's okay to let your mind wander. Not only is it okay, it's essential if you want to be successful. So create an emotional ebb and flow strategy. First, understand that motivation will fade. Also recognize that there will be a lot of boring, mundane things that have to happen for you to be successful. So accept it, commit to it. Remember that motivation curve. You get motivated, it fades, you push through. All of a sudden, you see some results because you pushed through. Right? If your health, it's all of a sudden those jeans aren't so tight. With your business, all of a sudden it's a couple extra clients. With your children, it's all of a sudden seeing your children grow and develop skills and do a little bit better. And that leads to that motivation. That's the cycle. Get excited. It'll fade. Push through. See results. Reinvigorate that motivation. That's the magic formula when it comes to achieving your goals and really embracing the boredom. If you enjoyed this and you got something out of this video, make sure you like it, subscribe, and share it with anybody you think would benefit from it.